So let's start with this shot. Wikipedia states that this was the last race that Enzo Ferrari attended when his cars won, and of course it was in Italy. I have to say, I don't remember ever seeing Enzo Ferrari at Imola in '83, but I do remember seeing Piero Lardi Ferrari, and there he is, and he was actually a good buddy, and he didn't pose for that picture, but I just took a picture of him. He's just walking out a shot, and you can see the Ferrari mechanics there trying to get the TV to work with not much success, which is normally the case in Formula One in those days. This was Nigel Mansell having a bit of fun. The Jacobazzi girls were legendary, really, and Jacobazzi was a big deal at Imola. They had a huge hospitality area above the pits, and of course it was a Gilles thing, and Jacobazzi was a great local wine company, and indeed the grandson of the founder of Jacobazzi is at Ferrari today, so there's still a massive amount of synergy. And you could go into, as a journalist, I just used to go into the Jacobazzi hospitality area in the pub, the pits, and you'd get pasta and your wine. It was absolutely brilliant. But of course, the year after Gilles' accident, everything was slightly different in feel. But Nigel was very close friends with Gilles as well. And there he is, just saying hello to two Jacobazzi representatives, interestingly enough. He seems to be. And there's a shot of, that's just a general shot of the entrance of the pit lane. Be interesting to see how different it looks when we see the shots from the track tomorrow and on Sunday. But you can see they came down out of the chicane there and just drove straight into the pits. Not quite sure who that is in Parc Fermé there, if that's what it is. But anyway, that's a general shot. Gerard Ducarouge, one of my best buddies, great engineer. You could argue that there's only one type of car that he knew how to design, but it was a very good car, very rigid, very good. And the Ligier, and then subsequently the Lotus, very good examples of that. There he is with Gilles Ligier. It's the back of Gilles Ligier. And Gerard was just always just a good bloke. Always had a good chat to him. That actually, oddly enough, is me. I've put that in only just to sort of give you a bit of context of who this bloke was, taking all those pictures and living that weekend. So this is inside the Ferrari motorhome, such as it was, little caravan really. And there's Patrick with his little cupboard with some kit in there. You can see the helmet there. And that's the back of Antonio Tommaini, his engineer. So Patrick just looking at the camera there and, hey, how you doing? This is another friend of mine, Bruno Giacomelli on the left, talking to yet another friend, Nigel Walheim, who at that point was at Pirelli. Yeah, you can see the Pirelli logo on his pullover. He's still around as well. He now works for Philip Morris, great guy, but two lovely Italians, and that's the back of the Imola pit complex as it was in 1983. So again, it'd be interesting to see what it looks like now. Next picture is Patrick, always in demand that weekend, and that was his sort of general demeanour. Very cool, as you can see. Very good racing driver, Patrick, very underrated. I don't think he applied himself perhaps quite as aggressively as he could have, but then he had James Hunt alongside him at McLaren, you know, and the whole thing at Ferrari. He was always under pressure. Anyway, there he is in car number 27. This is in practice, and there's Nelson behind him in the beautiful Brabham BMW. Nelson would be really quick, qualified second, but then had an engine problem, so he didn't really figure in the race. But more about the race in a minute. Here's Patrick being presented with, I think from memory, that was a sort of local Ferrari club trophy. It just happened. It was an impromptu thing. And there's the prancing horse. But yeah, that was just, you know, fairly typical of the weekend. There's René Arnoux, who was also a good buddy, still is, and good guy, you know, cool guy, fast racing driver. And you see there, you know, just said, hey, René, how you doing? And he was just going in and took the picture. And now this is inside the Ferrari garage. That's the back of Antonio Bellantani, the bald head. And you can see there the car. There's the V6 turbo engine in all its tiny glory. It wasn't a big engine at all. And there's the chassis and tyres all there. A little bit different from the garage today, but nonetheless, lots of atmosphere and lots of things there that spell motor racing and Ferrari. There's a close-up. You're allowed to take close-ups in, no problem at all. The gearbox and the engine, as I say, it was a pretty compact unit for that time. And there's Paolo Scaramelli. He was Gilles' mechanic. He was Gilles' number one, and he and Gilles were really close. And there's Paolo now on Patrick's car. doing, looks a bit Lotus-esque with a hammer there, doesn't he? But yeah, Paolo, great man. Sadly, passed away a few years ago, but always cycling, very fit before his time. He was, very fit and ahead of his time in terms of fitness regime. We stayed that year in Bologna. A lot of the teams did and just drove down the motorway up and down to Imola. And one of the reasons we stayed at the Novotel was because of the tennis courts. And there's Alan Prost. I remember playing tennis that weekend quite a lot, actually, with Prost and Lafitte, who were good friends then, actually. So yeah, fond memories of that Novotel in Bologna on the motorway, the Autostrada. Mass on the Sunday morning in the pit lane. I say in the pit lane, that's actually under the grandstand around the back. So it was, that was Formula One in Italy. They probably will this weekend somewhere. I'm not sure that Formula One as an entity will acknowledge it now. And there's the back end. Sorry, jumping around a bit here. There's the back end of Patrick's car. I was kind of around Patrick a lot that weekend, only because A, we were good friends, and B, Gilles had been such a good friend to both of us, and so we were all very close. So there's a typical Ferrari debrief. That's René Arnoux back. There's Patrick Tambay talking to Mauro Foghieri. Tomani wearing that black cap. I wish I could remember the name of the Goodyear engineer. He's a really good bloke, American. 90% of them were American. I can't remember his name though. Really good bloke, really fit. And that was it, basically. It was just that very small unit there of people that won the Grand Prix. And there's the, light lunch before the race. That's the Marlborough motorhome. And you could just walk in. I used to, just anyway. There's Watty and John Watson and Nicky Lauder on the left, and James Hunt, who was doing TV at that point. Obviously, he'd retired by then. With John Hogan, looks like. That's John Hogan on the right. And I always remember James, later on, about half an hour later, I was walking past the motorhome, and James came staggering out and said, "Where are the pits here?" None of this research business or actually wondering what the detail of the race is all about. That's why he was such a good commentator. Love James Hunt. And that was a pretty typical scene out the back. It was, it was such a sad weekend in many ways because of Gilles. And you see the Autosprint tent there, Autosprint magazine, and lots of Gilles pictures and books and memorabilia and photographs on sale. Hans Metzger was there in the pit lane. He, of course, he's just passed away. Wonderful man. You can see his name on his jacket there. Porsche engine designer for many years. Designed the championship winning engines for McLaren. But before that, the incredible engines used by Penske and Donohue and, the 917 development really as well. So top man. And he was there. He became a really good buddy as well. Very good friend. So here we are on the grid, and that's Patrick pulling up. And that's how nicely they did the Canadian flag. And there's the number 27 on the car, which of course Alan Jones had, but really, it became synonymous with Gilles thereafter. And, when Patrick said, I spoke to him relatively recently, and he said he was almost in tears when he saw that and pulled up. There you see Patrick just by the car there. You can see him with the helmet on. Incredible atmosphere stroke pressure at that point. Electric, absolutely electric. And that's after the race. We're jumping to the end. There's Lee Gogg, head of Goodyear, going up to Patrick to give him the Goodyear winner's cap. You can see the look on Patrick's face. Doesn't look too knackered, does he? He looks pretty good, I think, considering what he's just done. He's won for Gilles and for Ferrari at the Circuito Dino Ferrari. And, Autodromo Dino Ferrari, as you see there. It wasn't really a podium as we know it today. It was the balcony. You see Patrick there in the middle with the champagne. There you see Prost to his right, looking a little bit concerned. A little bit further along from there, you see Marco Piccinini in the Ferrari jacket. And just between Patrick on the other side, there's just the back of, or part of René Arnoux. I think that is the last time we've had 3 drivers from one country, 1, 2, 3, in a World Championship Formula One race. Riccardo Patrese actually took the lead from Patrick in the closing stages and promptly dropped it at Acqua Minerale and lost the race. And I took that shot of him at the Brabham motorhome as he was getting changed afterwards. His expression says it all. And finally, there was a shot of, we flew out of there in a helicopter. And there we are waiting. There's Silvio Piquet on the ground, Bernie, Nelson, who didn't have a great race, as I say. Well, he had a good qualifying, but the engine blew. And Dr. Rafael Grajales Robles, who was a very, very good heart surgeon. And Nelson's doctor, Emerson Fittipaldi's doctor, and Carlos Reutemann's doctor. He worked for all three drivers. He was at every race. And he was responsible for many of the safety improvements we've seen in Formula One, and we particularly saw at that time as well. Very, very sharp guy, lovely guy too, Panamanian. And there's just a close up of Bernie and Nelson waiting for the helicopter. So there we are. That was it. 83 San Marino Grand Prix. Patrick Tambay winning that race, and to me that was one of the great all-time victories in Formula One, and it happened at Imola. So we have videos coming up, obviously on Friday and Saturday. It's a two-day weekend. I can't imagine that's going to be a problem for the Formula One guys. We saw it work under force majeure circumstances at the Nürburgring, so no reason why it won't work here. With the added twist that I guess not many drivers have raced too much at Imola. I was kind of shocked to read that Lando Norris was 6 when Imola last staged a World Championship Formula One race, and yet for me, 83... for example, or even 79, feels absolutely like yesterday. So that's just the passage of time, I guess. A couple of other things. Well, yeah, 2 more. I was lucky to be a part of the Williams team when we won twice at Imola. One in 87 with the 11B Honda, and then again in 92 with the Renault. That's just a shot of me in 92 on the podium, getting the trophy. So I can tell you, it's a great feeling to be on the podium representing a team. It's a humble, embarrassing feeling as well. But the interesting thing about that 92 podium was and it was a podium then, was the room, the gathering room, the green room, if you like, before you go in. Ayrton collapsed and was just flat on his back, and we were late getting onto the podium because he had to have medical assistance just to revive him. He'd put so much into that drive, and yeah, I'll never forget that. I was a bit concerned actually at the time. You know, it was just like, wow, is Ayrton okay? And this is the other thing I brought along. This is the trophy. Actually, this is a miniature of the trophy we won in '87, and they gave 10 of these out to the team, and very kindly I was given one, which is, I'm very, very touched. Still amazing to have actually, and I'll do some close-ups, but it's got engraved all the previous winners, including 63 Jim Clark. So there we go, Gran Premio Shell it was called, the Shell Grand Prix, Imola, 21st of April, Jim Clark, Lotus Climax. And then it's got 79, the first Gran Premio Dino Ferrari, which was won by Niki Lauda in the Brabham Alpha. And 1980, it was the Gran Premio d'Italia. Nelson Piquet won that race. Yeah, this is one of my prized possessions actually, only because it's such a nice trophy. A lot of the trophies today I think are a little bit bland, but that is a lovely, lovely trophy, and typical of the Italians to do it so well, isn't it? Anyway, that's it. Look forward to seeing you over the weekend. And the final word is thank you, Johnny Williams, for the Buco cap. I finally have a Buco product. Excellent.